Truth for the battered but proud people of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Andrew Hollister here, your host of Radio Free New York, and I'm joined in studio with Bob Savage.
Shalom, aloha.
So here we are after Thanksgiving. Took a nice little break on Thanksgiving. My wife and I actually went down to North Carolina to just take a little alone time, relax, and probably not everybody knows this. We also celebrate our 10 years together. Now, we've only been married for 2, but we've actually been together for 10 years. So it was kind of a nice little getaway for us, relax, and it was pretty good. I learned some new things about North Carolina and Charlotte. And it's kind of funny because we live in Charlotte, and so she was constantly calling Charlotte, and it was kind of fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, this is Rochester, New York, and environs are pronunciation hell. Everybody in radio and television knows that when you relocate here, that it's Avon, not Avon. It's Lima, not Lima. It's Bergen, not Bergen. It's Riga, not Riga. Chile, not Chile. Charlotte, not Charlotte.
Yep. Yeah.
And then you have the fun that always happens when over in the Western New York area, the first time a new green announcer runs across the Skidjacado Expressway in copy.
Yep. Yeah. So that was fun. Got to try some of their specialty foods down there. I guess that's one of the things that we always try to make a point of doing when we travel is
possum, isn't it?
Shrimp and grits. That's like every single place we went to, shrimp and grits. That was like the big thing, and then chicken and waffles.
Chicken and waffles are here now.
Yeah, they're coming. There's a few places like Boxcar Donuts and stuff like that.
I mean, I think KFC has got chicken and waffles now.
Do they?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I don't frequent KFC too often.
I don't either, but I've seen the spots on TV.
Yeah.
But I've always, I lived in the South. I mean, I lived in Knoxville for 5 years, and I don't know what the view is elsewhere, but there the prevailing attitude was that grits are kind of like a joke that Southerners play on Northerners.
Oh, okay.
They put them in front of Northerners and say, hey, we all eat this stuff down here.
Yeah,
you'll love it. Try it.
Yeah. They were pretty good. Well, they were like cheddar grits or cheese grits. They weren't like the bland, I've had bad grits before. These were good grits.
Grits are kind of like, the ones that I had are kind of like if you took white rice and you ran over it with a steamroller and got it really wet.
Yep. Yeah, no, so it was interesting, for sure. And it was pretty cool. We went down, there's a 20-acre farm down there. So we went there and we actually stayed in kind of like a little cottage that used to be a greenhouse. And they kind of like retrofit it into like a little like Airbnb that you can rent out.
That's cool.
So that was pretty cool. The weather was, of course, warmer. It was like 12 degrees up here, and it was like, 50s, 60s down there. So that was cool. But the one thing that was still really cold is the shower was actually an outdoor shower.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So that was interesting. So I go in there, and I do camping and hiking all over the place. And, I'll camp out in, like, the snow and stuff. So I'm not foreign to that.
Was that cold water?
Well, so that's what I'm getting to. So it's interesting. So it was about 40 degrees in the morning, and I go in there, and the people had talked about, oh, sorry, we turned off the water. We turned it back on. We didn't want it to freeze. And there was a hot and a cold spigot there. So I go ahead and I turn it on, and at this point I'm fully undressed. There's a little slab of concrete there. Basically, I'm standing. My feet are getting real cold, and I'm like, this water is not getting any warmer. So finally,
it's another trick like grits.
Yeah, just like the grits, right? So finally, I'm like, well, whatever. I've done, cold water bath in the shower before, so I get, I'm cleaning myself here, and finally, the water's like, this is like 20 minutes in now. The water's now changing temperatures to warm. So by the end of the shower, I didn't end up with hypothermia, but at the beginning, it was pretty questionable.
Oh my God, it would have been the world's fastest shower for me.
Oh yeah. It was fun though. It's just never a dull moment in my life.
So what's your connection with Charlotte?
Oh, no connection. So
just decide to go there.
What we did is Google. I don't know how many people fly and travel, but Google about a year and a half ago built this search engine for flights. So you can put in your starting destination and see a map of the U.S., actually a map of the world, and just put in your dates and see what the cost of flights are. And flights to Charlotte were pretty affordable. So we're like, yeah, we'll go there. I think the flights were like $200-300 round trip or something.
Sweet.
And which I know they can be much cheaper, but being that it was like holiday season and stuff, it was a good deal.
And not Thanksgiving week, I don't think it'd be cheaper.
Yeah. So we did that. It was a pretty good time. It was interesting. We some of the places were far, so we took like an Uber or a Lyft, and one of our Uber drivers was from New York. And all of our Uber and Lyft drivers said the same thing. Oh, there seems to be a lot of people from New York here.
The nickname for Charlotte is South Buffalo.
Yeah. Yep. So one of our Uber drivers, he was actually from Brooklyn, and he was like, oh, yeah, I was just in New York visiting family, but I only go back once a year. He's like, the roads in New York are awful. The weather is awful. All this. He's like, I came down here to visit my sister who moved, and I just never came back. So it was pretty interesting. I didn't like it that much that I felt like moving, though. I know a lot of people say that. Is
it very crowded, I think, Charlotte, these days?
I don't know.
I heard that the traffic is bad and that.
Yeah, none of that seemed to be the case. It just didn't have the pull on me that people say they feel when they go down there. I didn't feel it. So.
I like the Smokies. And of course, okay. Smoky Mountains, and on the one side you've got Knoxville, on the other side you've got Asheville. Yeah. Asheville is a little bit too much like southern Ithaca for me. Okay. I mean, it's Birkenstockville. It really is, and we were down there for we were checking out a summer school for our son, and as Brevard Music Academy. I don't know, it wasn't what we were, and it's real earth puppy. I mean, it really is. Every restaurant. We went out after we got everybody in bed, and Grandma and the boy looking for like a cute little bar that we could go sit in. Yeah, we couldn't find a cute little bar that we actually wanted to sit down on anything.
Oh, really?
So it's one of those deals. But Knoxville's K-Town's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And you got the topography like you do in Western New York. You got the mountains. You got the big lakes. And
yeah. Nice. So I do want to give a shout out to a few people who are watching us right now. We're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I see Brian, Nathan, Maggie, Jacob, and Misty have joined us online. And I've got a little treat for you guys. Bob knows what's coming. So last show, somebody who was watching the live stream said, oh, you haven't shaved. You got some scruff going. That looks pretty good. And so somehow it came up throughout the week between shows. People are like, yeah, you really got to bring the beard back. And I wanted to give people on the show a little bit of a picture of what my beard used to look like, because so many people reached out about it. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this up on the live stream, and Bob's got some pictures here that I gave him. So the first one's the blue one, or the blue jacket in the parking lot there.
Yes. My caption for this is, on thy way to a barn raising.
Yep. So
gonna try his Amish pickup lines on girls there.
Yep. So you can see there I was quite a bit heavier. So this was about only about 2 years ago.
Wow, you're a chunky little dude there.
Yeah. So I've lost a little over 40 pounds since.
Excellent. That's great.
And recently, now that the campaign's done, I've been really focusing back on just fitness, self-betterment, so.
Well, shaving the beard accounts for 5 pounds.
It was at least 5 pounds right on the beard there. The next one is another picture that was from, so the first picture, I want to say that was, I'm not sure where that was. I was thinking that maybe it was on the way to the rehearsal dinner from our wedding, but looking at the parking lot, I don't recognize it. So it must not have been. Must have been some other event. But the next
New York plates there.
Yeah, absolutely. The next picture is from my wedding. There's me and one of my groomsmen there. And
my caption for this is 2 Maltese limo drivers.
Yeah, there you go. And the last one is actually at a friend's wedding who had a photo booth. So you see my wife there and our friend Tasha.
Your wife's in the middle?
Yes. Yep. In the middle.
What a pretty girl.
Yeah. She actually decided for the first time in her life she wanted to color her hair. She had never done it as a kid, never as a teenager, nothing. And she was like, you know what? I'm just going to go blonde. For fun. Why not? I've never done it. Kind of.
Is she still blonde now?
No. She's back to her brown hair, her natural hair color.
Brunette.
Yep. She cycled through a few other colors though, like kind of like a reddish tint, which also looked like really good. And then our friend Tasha there on the side. This is like a little faux booth. They obviously had props and stuff for the wedding. It was just a lot of fun.
This is I captioned this one, Andrew Hollister with 2 lovely, obviously visually impaired ladies.
Yeah. I tell my wife that all the time. I'm like, I pay your eye doctor a lot so that you think I'm attractive. A
special adjustment there.
Yep, absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break here. Then we're going to talk about some interesting news going on here in New York and some politics as usual. So join us here after the break and Radio Free New York.
WYSL 92.1 FM, 1040 AM. Oh, and the new 95.5 FM West. This is Bob Savage for Schulteis Sporting Goods in Arkport. People from all over the area have been coming to
1 minute
for over 40 years. They're an experienced gun shop offering gunsmithing, repairs, and custom work. Schulteis has a great selection of new and pre-owned guns, a large inventory of handguns, and great prices on ammo. Schulteis offers free appraisals. They buy collections, and trades are welcome. Open Monday through Saturday at 10 a.m. Schulteis Sporting Goods, Main Street in Arkport.
Take it, Tony.
How's that, Pete?
Terrific, man. Hold on. Hello.
Honey, we need help. The house is freezing.
Oh, man, now I really got the blues.
What's the skinny, Pete?
Furnace won't fire and the house is freezing. What am I going to do, brother?
Call Taylor. 500 help. Their heating experts will fix things up and have you singing in no time.
500 help? Now that's a hot number.
I think I'm really getting it, man.
Call Taylor. 500 help.
You're listening to Radio Free New York on the WYSL stations.
Got it.
All right, guys. So here we are back from our break at Radio Free New York, and some people commenting in, liking the beard. And Amy says she lived in Asheville area for 2 years, and there was just a lot of New Yorkers there too. So.
Oh yeah.
Yep, absolutely. New Yorkers, we flee this state constantly. 1 million New Yorkers in the last 8 years. Yeah. So a lot of New Yorkers.
But that's nothing to worry about. It's just the productive ones.
Yeah.
The ones that really contribute to the tax base.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot worse if it weren't for a lot of immigration.
No. So we've got this social media bill. I'm sure people have seen it. It's starting to float all over social media, ironically. The social media bill, for those of you who don't know, there is a bill being proposed in New York State right now that for all pistol permit applicants, they will have to submit their usernames and their passwords to state government for them to review your social media history, 3 years of your social media history, 1 year of your search engine history.
That's just for web searches, right?
Yeah, for web searches. Yep. And social media is all of your messages, all of your posts, all your comments, all your pictures, your everything. before they approve your pistol permit, and they're saying actually
or renew it.
Yes, or renew it. Yes, absolutely. And I'm gonna pull up the exact verbiage here for you guys. So what they're saying they would be looking for is commonly known profane slurs or biased language.
Like Republican, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Used to describe the race, color, national origin, ancestry, gender, religion, religious practice, age, disability, or sexual orientation of a person, threatening the health or safety of another person, an act of terrorism, or any other issue deemed necessary by the investigating officer.
Any other, say it again, any other what?
Any other issue deemed necessary by the investigating officer.
And that's a little clause that you can drive a 40-foot semi through sideways.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
So this essentially
the whole thing's unbelievable.
Yeah, the whole thing is insane. I mean, first and foremost, there's no, you talk about profane slurs or biased language. Here's the thing. We're talking about people's freedom of speech. First off, well, whether we agree with it or not.
Well, let your fingers do the walking through the Bill of Rights. First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment.
Yep. The whole entire thing. So based on people's speech, we are talking about now denying them their constitutional rights. Now, I'm not saying we have to agree with this speech. In fact, I totally oppose it. And anybody who speaks in a way that I think is wrong, I'm going to tell them, I don't think that's right, but it's their right to say it, and it shouldn't. That's like saying if you say something that could maybe fall under these terms, you can't vote anymore.
Think about the implications of this. I mean, so you're doing a college, a dissertation, a paper on the Holocaust.
Yep.
So you go in there and you do all these web searches on the Nazis.
Yeah, and now who's interpreting?
What's the context in which these searches took place?
Yeah, and the thing that scares me probably the most is not the first 3 points, although very terrifying. It's the fourth one that says any issue deemed necessary by the investigating officer. I mean, we're talking about just total carte blanche, no
limitations at all.
Yeah, it's just whatever.
The whole thing, even before you get to that point, the whole thing is ridiculous. It's glaringly unconstitutional, would never pass muster at the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And it would, if that were to ever be enacted in New York State, would certainly go to SCOTUS.
Yeah. Well, and truly what this represents for the people of New York is A, how bad New York is, right? That's first and foremost. But B, how much money are we going to spend fighting this if this is enacted? How much taxpayer dollars are going to be spent? A, first them trying to implement it. They'll spend millions. B, they'll fail in implementing it because they have no infrastructure to do this. Then C, the cost of the state fighting lawsuit after lawsuit, it going to the Supreme Court, the whole everything, it's going to cost us millions and millions of dollars if this is passed, not to mention the violation of our First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment rights. I mean, this thing is so just terrible, absolutely terrible. And I wish I could say that I can't believe that this was even put together. But the sad thing is, I believe that somebody put this together. It didn't even come as a complete shock to me. It was surprising to me that somebody actually put it forward, but it wasn't that I was like, oh yeah, it's New York. Yeah, I guess that's not as surprising to me. Now, one thing that did surprise me, though, is that State Senator Akshar, who is a Republican and supposedly is a Second Amendment supporter, actually put together a poll asking people if they would support it. So that to me was just it was frustrating. I mean, we look at the SAFE Act and we know it was passed by Democrats and Republicans together. But now we have another Republican senator putting together a survey that in the questions, it starts off kind of like, like this is what's going on. Would you support this? And then they start asking questions in the survey that make you feel like this guy's trying to push it through. Because he says, would you support this bill if we still searched people's social media accounts and still searched their search engine background checks if you didn't have to provide your username and password? Now that to me that's just as scary, because now you're saying, would you support this bill if we got government full access to people's social media accounts without their permission and without them providing passwords? So that's now a potential suggested edit to this bill. So you want your Second Amendment rights in New York. Now a potential addition to this bill would be, we don't need your username and password. We just essentially subpoena your information from Facebook, some legal way. They'll come up with something. So that's I think really concerning to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's concerning on so many levels. You know where to start, and not the least of which I don't know. I mean, supposedly the law doesn't have a sponsor right now, and it hasn't. There's no indication it's going to be brought to the floor for a vote. But I think that the things that you're saying suggest what the real agenda is here. I would argue that this law is not actually expected to pass or go anywhere. This is about driving public opinion, and about trying to move the median acceptance level of certain ideas into mainstream. I think this is completely cynical, and I think this just gives them an opportunity to say, no, there's no way this is going anywhere. But it's an interesting idea. And by the way, have you checked out the background of Kevin Parker, the sponsor of this bill?
I heard there was some gnarly stuff in his past.
You have a gift for understatement, Andrew Hollister, may I just say. This is from FoxNews.com. Democratic state lawmaker from Brooklyn submitted a bill calling for all gun license applicants to get the government to renew their social media, blah, blah. He's got a few problems. Parker, convicted in 2010 of roughing up a New York Post photographer, did the same to a traffic cop in 2005, but avoided punishment by agreeing to go notably unsuccessful anger management training. He also pushed around a female aide and broke her glasses.
Yeah, that one I heard of. Yep.
And he owes a government record cited by the New York Post in 2017 indicate Parker owes more than $50,000 in property taxes and water bills. And his response when interviewed about it by the Post, I needed a raise.
Interesting. Well, we talked, ironically, last show, we talked about how they're going to be voting for their salary increases. So this guy's just, he's a piece of work.
Bad news.
Really bad news. So what I did, I filled out the survey. And the final question of the survey was, what changes to the bill, if any, would you recommend? So my recommendation for changes to this bill is that we eliminate the part about people applying for pistol permits and instead replace those people with elected officials that thought this bill was a good idea.
I love it.
And instead of the police reviewing their social media and their web search histories, that be offered as public information to the constituents of New York State, so we can know what these elected officials, if they're using any commonly known profane slurs or biased language used to describe the race, color, national origin, ancestry, gender, religion, religious practice, age, disability, or sexual orientation of a person, or any other issue deemed necessary by us, the constituency. So that's why I submitted. I know a lot of other people did something very similar. As this went around, they're like, I bet our elected officials would vote very differently if the rules and laws that they're trying to pass were applied to them. And I think that that's something that we need to really push for and push back on. And really,
I'd go a step further. I would say that any law that you want to enact has a stepped implementation schedule pursuant to which you live under it before we do. Yes. You get to test it out for us for 2 years, and then you report to us how it's working out for you.
Yeah, that's great. I love the idea. I'd support that. Absolutely. So we're going to take another quick break here on Radio Free New York.
WYSL, by the way, podcast always available at WYSL1040.com. Thanks for listening.
Listening to the voice of liberty. WYSL. AM 1040 Avon, Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, FM 95.5 Spencerport, and WYSL1040.com everywhere.
At Family Furniture in Perry, get everyday savings without big chain store hassles. Find out why Family Furniture is the shopping destination for thousands all over the region. For the best prices, quality, and selection on name brand sofas, bedroom and dining room groups, recliners, and motion furniture. You'll also find great financing deals for qualified buyers and quick, convenient delivery. Instead of the big Rochester showrooms, take a quick drive to Family Furniture in downtown Perry, serving you for over 65 years. Open Thursday and Friday nights till 7, Saturdays till 4.
All Seasons Wine and Spirits, East Main Street, Avon, offers the largest selection of New York State wines in Livingston County. Enjoy New York wine tasting every Friday. Save 15% on it.
Coming back.
You can mix and match. Open daily. All Seasons Wine
Coming back.
and Spirits in Avon.
You're listening to Radio Free New York on the WYSL stations.
Once again, here is Andrew Hollister.
Hey guys, how's it going? So, as if that social media bill wasn't enough, Cuomo, as you guys know, has been doing just all sorts of ridiculous stuff. I mean, over the last 8 years, he has. And he's I'm going to find myself during the show agreeing with some people that I don't want to say I never thought I'd agree with, because I really don't talk in absolutes, but some people that I thought were going to be highly unlikely that I thought that I would find some agreement with. And that's going to be Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So Cuomo, as many of you know,
the bartender from Brooklyn who wants to tell you how to live.
Yes, yes, and did not know what the three branches of government were after she was elected to Congress.
It's meat, dairy, and grain.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's probably right. So Cuomo, as you guys remember, was prepping for a 2020 presidential run, and Trump kind of said, "Come at me." You know, when he was in, I think it was Utica, New York, he basically said, "Yeah, go ahead. I dare you. Try to run against me." And Cuomo came up with this great statement shortly after.
We need the Cuomo theme here.
Yeah. Let's play the. Yep. Here we go. We've got the Cuomo theme running here. We're gonna go ahead and play a statement that you guys have heard on this show many times, where Cuomo said that America was just never great. So this is a statement that he came out with once he was basically provoked by Trump, I guess.
We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great. We have not reached greatness. We will reach greatness when every American is fully engaged.
What?
We will reach greatness when discrimination and stereotyping against women, 51% of our population, is gone.
How about stereotyping against conservatives?
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Okay, so I made that comment about about women, right? So now we have this classic from Andy's Greatest Hits.
Can't I get you to sing just a few bars of Empire State of Mind?
No, that's a campaign killer.
All right, fine. We're going to go to the end of the debate.
Unless you come to the shower.
All right, we're done.
Yeah.
Oh, quip about getting in the shower with the female interviewer.
Yeah. So in his first quote, he said two things at the end there. The first was till every American is engaged, right? And what was the second?
What if you're already married?
Yeah. Well, and often,
some dopey umlaut about eliminating discrimination. Because that happens all over the place.
Yep.
And we know it's institutional. It's still there, which makes me say, well, what have you been doing for 8 years?
Exactly. So many times when we play this clip on the show, Bob Savage actually theorized that he means when every American agrees with him. Right. And so interestingly enough, as you guys know from the last show, and you've probably seen it all over the news, this whole Amazon debacle and what's going on with that. New York State, partially New York City, partially New York State, is giving Amazon about $3 billion, yes, billion with a B, dollars worth of tax breaks to build Amazon HQ in Long Island. Now, Cuomo has caught so much flack for this. And in my last show, I literally said how this is literally a tax break for the rich. This is the thing that people on the left should be losing their minds about. And I was kind of like, where are the people on the left on this? Well, they're starting to come out. They are. They're looking at this and going, yeah, this is totally hypocritical. This is the thing we talk about all the time, to the point where the news has picked up on it. People on the left have picked up on it. Cuomo has started writing op-eds to the newspaper saying, no, that's not true. That's not what happened. Of course, he's not writing it. He's making some intern write it. But the fact that he's even sending this stuff from his office shows how much flack he's catching. Well, now, after this has happened, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who by and large has demonstrated a lack of understanding, I think, in how government works in economics and stuff like that. So I find myself disagreeing many, many times, if not every time until this point, to be honest, with what she has to say.
Except for occupying Nancy Pelosi's office. I kind of like that.
Oh, there you go. Yep. So she actually posted this on Twitter. She said, Amazon is $1 billion company. The idea they'll receive hundreds of millions of dollars in tax breaks at a time when our subway is crumbling and our communities need more investment, not less, is extremely concerning to residents here.
Yeah.
Now, even pieces of her statement I could say I don't 100% agree with, but the fact that she recognized this as a problem is great. That's amazing. That she is like a leader for the people of the left in New York City. So even they're seeing that. And then Bernie Sanders weighed in against it as well, saying that New York and Cuomo are basically engaging in corporate welfare, which is exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. And even Bernie Sanders came out against this. So I just can't, like, I'm surprised. I'm excited. Like, there's some hope gleaming here out of this. And Cuomo is, he's struggling. He's struggling. He's just reelected by a extremely wide margin, largely, I think, because of the lameness of the Republican opposition to him, somebody who barely campaigned and was extremely underfinanced because the GOP, as we all know, particularly in New York, is cheap. But you look at crunch the numbers. There was two Amazon headquarters, right? There was the one in Long Island City, and then Virginia, suburban Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. Then there was a third smaller facility. I think it's a distribution facility in Tennessee. Okay.
So all three of these locations had subsidized job creation. New York's by far and away the most expensive at $48,000 per job. I believe the Virginia was about $28,000 per job, and the Tennessee was $13,000 per job. Mm-hmm. So Andy, the Insane, was queried about why are we paying so much more, and his somewhat incredible response. And honestly, I think sometimes he says these things cynically because he just wants his name in the news. Yeah. He said, well, New York's is a high tax state.
Yeah. Yep. That's literally what he said. Yeah. It costs a lot of money here. It's a lot of taxes.
How'd that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. It just shows how disconnected He really is.
Or he knows, he understands, and he's okay with it. And what he's trying to do, once again, is he's trying to raise his level of awareness in the mass media in preparation for his presidential run that we all know he's going to mount soon.
Yeah. And so interestingly enough, many of our listeners on the show probably remember a time, this was maybe, I want to say it was about 4 years ago, Cuomo made a statement where he said, conservatives have no place in New York. Well, he's updated his statement a little bit. And he is now saying that the problems in the opposition to Amazon are because of conservatives and socialists in New York now.
So conservatives and socialists are the same thing? What's he saying?
I think that what's happening now is he's starting to lose on all fronts, right? You saw this especially with I can't remember her name. Who ran against him in the primary?
Cynthia Nixon.
Cynthia Nixon. There we go. Wow. Brain fart there. So Cynthia Nixon, I mean, she was pulling hard left, right? And took 30% of the Democrat vote pulling hard left. Well, now he's written those people off totally. And the type of people that do support people like Bernie Sanders and Cortez, that used to be and could have been a base for him. He's written them off. He's always written conservatives off, but now he's writing more of New York off. And I think that this is an interesting turning point in New York where, you've got what he's calling far left and far right against him. He's trying to make himself out to be this moderate, which he's not at all. He's trying to make it look like he's centrist. Yeah. But this is what he's trying to do, and nobody's buying into it. He's just like losing support. People are getting angry with him, and the media, ironically, is starting to turn against him too. So very different than maybe 3-4 months ago. During the election cycle.
They're going to turn against him now in the name of credibility of their outlets, because now there's no clear and present danger. Yeah. He's safely reelected, so now they can take a swing at him. But running up to the election, they would never do that. Yeah, no, absolutely, and they didn't. They totally didn't. They were absolutely terrified of him in the election. So I just thought I'd share that with you guys, because I was very happy to see that the people on the left are like, oh, yeah, this is bad. We shouldn't be spending all our tax dollars on corporate welfare. But what you're describing, isn't this what happens with every totalitarian regime? Because now you have to go for ideological purity. Once you've consolidated your power, now what you have to do is start, scanning the horizon for potential enemies and challengers all the time.
Sure. Yeah.
So on the left and on the right, they're going to start dropping like flies.
Yeah.
No, we can't have that. No, you're not, you're not liberal enough. No, you're not saying the right things. You're not hanging out with the right people.
Yeah. So it was an interesting turn of events. I hope that the people that read AOC is what they call Cortez. I hope that the people that read that start maybe thinking about being critical of our government, especially down in New York City, and all the Bernie supporters out there too, who are like, they believe what Bernie says. I hope they start looking critically too, and realize that it makes sense for government to not spend our money trying to buy jobs and bribe corporations to come into our state. It makes sense for us to fix regulation, fix taxes. Then they will come to our state.
Well, you got Mayor Big Bird, Bill de Blasio. I don't know if you got his recent comment where he said what we need to do is we need to have more government control through ownership of buildings in New York.
Yeah. See,
the government, because the people aren't using the government the buildings efficiently, and they're too stupid. I mean, we have to have the power elites control all of the real estate
for everybody else. Yeah.
So anything that you want to do in any building that you operated, you have to get government approval and government involvement, which is distressingly already close to being in that state.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, absolutely. And with all the corporations the government puts together, the housing authority, the what's HUD? Like all these organizations are corporations created by government to then control aspects, whether it's real estate or, stuff like that. So yeah, it's not good. It's terrible. The government should not be allowed to form corporations to then own property. It shouldn't be. Actually, I think the federal government can't, although they do anyways. I don't think legally the federal government can even own land, if I remember.
They're allowed to have 10 square miles.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've gone a little bit over that, I think.
Oh yeah, so, in a major way.
Yeah.
Is it Montana where the Bureau of Land Management owns 90% of the real estate or something? Yeah, well, one of the western states.
Yeah, when we were in Colorado and Utah, it was crazy. I mean, we could go just about anywhere, and we were in a camper van, so we're looking for places to and just go wherever. It was all BLM land, not all of it, but a lot of it, outside of major cities. And it was totally shocking. I mean, in some good ways, because it was like, oh, wow, there's land that we can use. But then the realization of, but why does the federal government own this land? Why isn't it just public land?
Why doesn't any government own land? Yeah. What do they need the land for?
I don't know. So speaking of government owning land, spending our money, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. When we come back, we're going to talk about the throughway toll collector who makes over $100,000 a year collecting your change at the toll booth.
Radio Free New York, all your rights, all the time on the WYSL stations with Andrew C. Hollister. There's a place in the village of Avon you and your critters will love. Whether they're big or small, whether they've got hair, fur, or feathers, Avon Feed fits every need. There's a full selection of pet foods for dogs and cats, bird feeders, suet, and all kinds of quality wild bird seed. Check out our frequent flyer bird seed program. Buy 10 bags of bird seed, get the next bag free. Choose farm feeds and great equine products like Blue Seal and Nutrina. Find everything for your pet from feeding bowls to toys, leads, collars, beds, crates, and tie-outs. Avon Feed and Supply has what the big pet chain stores will never have. Tim Cole and his great knowledgeable staff. And if you think you'll save money at that pet superstore, well, think again. While you're at Avon Feed, don't forget the two-legged pets with River Rat Thousand Island cheese and great flavors, including hard-to-find Mean and Nasty, plus Once Again Nut Butters, Nunday Mustards, and Rickles Pickles. Open weekdays 9 to 6, Saturday 9 to
Coming back.
Avon Feed and Supply, West Main at the bottom of the hill, just west of the Circle.
You're listening to Radio Free New York on the WYSL stations.
So send us a stamped self-addressed envelope, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be happy to send you autographed copies of Andrew C. Hollister's beard pictures.
Yeah, there you go. We've got 3 of them. We could totally do that.
Stamped self-addressed envelope to WYSL Beard Pictures, Box 236, Avon 14414.
And for those of you who are just maybe joining us on the show at the beginning of the show, well, actually, this kind of started 2 shows ago. Last show, somebody who was watching the live stream commented on the fact that I wasn't clean shaven. And I was like, oh yeah, been busy. And then somebody else was like, oh, you got to bring the beard back. And I realized many of the listeners probably hadn't seen me with my beard. So for those of you who are on the live stream that might be just joining, I'll just run the slideshow again while we talk about this next topic. And you can see myself here with the beard within the last 2 years, I think, is when these photos were taken. I know at least the wedding picture was, because I've been married for about 2 years.
By the way, when you request your autographed picture of Andrew Hollister or your beard picture, make sure that you specify on my way to a barn, on thy way to a barn raising, Maltese limo drivers, and pretty visually impressed girls, or impaired girls.
Impaired, yep. Right. Visually impaired girls.
So make sure we get the right one to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of fun there for sure. So as I alluded to before the break, some news broke, which is kind of interesting, about a toll collector in Buffalo who was making over $100,000.
Well, aren't there a lot of those? I thought the job normally pays about 70.
So yeah, about looks like they pay about 60,000-70,000, to be a toll collector. At least these numbers are from 2017, so I'm sure it's more. this year. But yeah, they found that. And I'm not sure, this must have been some investigative reporting. Somebody saw some weird numbers, whatever. They found that the New York State Thruway Authority had paid over $11 million in overtime in 2017, which is interesting for an organization that the majority of their employees are part-time. So that alone is interesting. For those of you who may not be familiar with how overtime works, or if you're not involved in HR or don't run a business, the way overtime works in New York State is even if you're part-time and you go over your part-time hours, you don't get paid overtime. You don't get paid overtime until you go over 40 hours. And there's some instances in some jobs where the overtime actually doesn't start till a higher number, like 45 or 50 hours, but those are kind of rare, strange New York State laws. So for the most part, if you're a part-time employee and then your employer gives you 40 hours that week, you're still not getting overtime till you go over these 40 hours of overtime. So in Buffalo, we have a toll collector who in 2017 collected $48,000 in overtime. An extra 23 hours a week is what that averages out to in overtime. And many of the plaza managers, which I'm still figuring out exactly what plaza manager is, but it seems to be the manager of that toll exit. So the person that works that toll exit, were making over $250,000 a year, including their base salaries and overtime. So that is just like crazy. I mean, we're talking about $11 million of money paid by taxpayers to basically in just mismanagement, not properly having, just not proper staffing is what that comes out to, is $11 million.
For an eye-opener, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to just following up on what Andrew's talking about. You go to a website called See Through New York. Through is spelled out, THROUGH. And there are this is a listing of the top public payroll people in the state. Number one is let's see, president of Roswell Park Cancer Institute. Okay, fair enough, 1.1 million. But then in Roswell Park, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20. Certainly 25 people who have salaries between $500,000 and $750,000 a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we have somebody by the name of Martha Kavanaugh who works for Hamburg Central Schools, and their title is NDR. I don't know what that means. $530K. And this list just goes on and on. It's insane.
Yeah.
And they're all ranked here.
Yeah, and I would venture to guess that.
Oh wait, here's one. This guy is Abosidi Sasnyaya. Works for the DEC. He's a stationary engineer, which means I guess he just doesn't move.
In one spot. I'm not sure what that is. Yeah.
$467 an hour.
Jeez.
For a total compensation of $419,416. And this goes on and on like this.
Yeah. No, it does. And, the majority of these positions are more than likely appointed positions, or, I mean, some of them are probably hired and competitive. But it always seems that the highest paying positions in New York tend to be the appointed ones, appointed by, whoever gets elected. So a good way for them to reward their buddies. So the throughway toll thing was pretty interesting. They have 262 employees making over six figures. Once again, these numbers are from 2017, and we're talking about a system that wasn't supposed to be permanent. We're talking about a system that was supposed to be temporary, cover the cost of repairing the throughway, and then essentially be dissolved. But we're also talking about terrible inefficiency. Say it was supposed to be permanent. Say it did. I'm playing devil's advocate here, but let's say that it wasn't supposed to be permanent. Let's say it served a good purpose. We're talking about spending $11 million here in mismanagement and overtime, not to mention other states and Canada also have implemented just the what do they call them? The toll systems that just take a picture of your license plate.
Yeah, the ETRs that they have there.
Yep, the ETR system there. Electronic tolls. Yep, that's what they are. Electronic tolls. And we would save not just this $11 million in mismanagement, just hundreds of millions of dollars every year to the taxpayer. And if the toll system had to stay in place, which I've talked about many times on the show, how we could totally eliminate the tolls, still have our roads maintained, and not one dime for the taxpayer to pay. No raise in taxes, none of that. But let's say none of that could happen. Obviously Cuomo's not going to do that. We could be doing way better for ourselves.
Well, other states do it.
Yes, they do.
How do other states manage to operate interstate highways and maintain them? In many cases, I would argue better than ours.
Yep.
And they don't charge tolls.
Correct. Yeah. And there are some states that do charge tolls, and their roads are better too, and their tolls are less than ours.
But the tolls are typically automated. I mean, they're either the baskets that you throw the change into, or you can insert a credit card, or they photograph your license, or some combination of those things.
Yep, absolutely. So
not for nothing. I mean, that's a tough job. Standing there in New York State weather for an 8-hour shift with your door open.
Yeah. Well, not only that, they have to take a break. I think it's every 15 minutes because of the fumes. It's a OSHA thing, I believe.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They can
every 15 minutes?
Yeah. I think they're only allowed to work like 15-minute intervals. I'm not sure what they do at the 15 minutes. They swap out the booth and have a smoke break or something. I don't know. Ironically. But yeah, I remember somebody was telling me that every 15 minutes they're supposed to take a break because of the fumes from the vehicle and some OSHA requirements.
I don't see that when I go through the toll plazas.
I mean,
you'd see this constant motion of people, or maybe they just close up the lanes. I don't know.
Yeah, I do notice that just about every time, through the campaign, I drove the thruway just a ton. I can't imagine how much I paid New York State in tolls on the campaign. I always use the Easy Pass, which is an automated option, but I would always notice probably 3 or 4 booths close at a time, and then I would see people actually carrying their cash register to the thing. So maybe that was how the switch works. I'm not really sure, but
maybe somebody will call in and tell us. I don't know how that system works.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me check the comments. I don't see anybody talking about. I don't think any of the toll workers. They must be collecting change right now. They're not. They're not watching.
They're on break.
Yeah, they're on break. I don't see anything on YouTube or Twitter either. So next week we've got a little bit of a surprise for you guys. Some of you might know. We've been talking about this for about a month, I think. I will be doing a show not just Fridays, but also Monday as well. So beginning next week, you will have two live hours of Radio Free New York, one on Mondays from 1 to 2, and then our normal time Fridays, 1 to 2 as well. So that'll be exciting.
Well, there you go. Yeah, we're going to supersize Radio Free New York, twice as much fun, and for the same price, which is free.
Yep, absolutely. So I'll make sure to catch me Monday, 1 p.m. Just tune in, tell your friends, watch the live stream. If you can't catch it, then we replay. Do we replay on a certain day as well?
I believe we do. And Bob, unfortunately, is not in the control room right now, and it's escaping me when we do replay the show. But it's always on in podcast form.
Yes. So it's always online.
Sunday at 1.
Sunday at 1, we're told in our ear. But also always available at WYSL1040.com. You just go to click on the podcast navigation button, and then all the shows that we podcast come up alphabetically.
Yeah. And if you ever do want to, see my smiling face, all the live streams are archived on YouTube and Facebook as well. So if you're driving in your car and you're like, what does Andrew look like with a beard? Later today, when you get home, you can jump on YouTube or Facebook, play through the live stream, and you will see those lovely pictures of me with the beard. And then next week, you can call in and tell me whether or not you think we should bring the beard back.
Well, once again, don't forget we're making this this limited edition offer available to you. The autographed pictures of Andrew C. Hollister, and you can choose between visually impaired girls, Maltese limo drivers, and On My Way to a Barn Raising. Pick out which one you want. Stamped, self-addressed envelope, please, to WYSL, Box 236, Avon, the Arc, 14414. Well, that's going to pretty much put the wraps on it here, Andrew C. Hollister, for another show.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys for joining me. I'll catch you on Monday.